Jody Vance with you. Want to remind you at the bottom of the hour, we will connect with Federal Public Safety Minister Bill Blair to talk through some of the states of emergency, the safety issues that have been impacting Canadians from coast to coast to coast. It's been quite an unprecedented time, right? It has been a journey. It is so interesting. When we have our morning meetings, you've heard me talk about this before, the collective, it used to be we'd all sit in one room and go back and forth about what was making news, what views, what could we bring to the table, what would be value to our listener. And we've been talking on conference calls now for more than a year and a half. And one of our conference calls this week saw us have a chat about where we were and what it felt like in the moments when the World Health Organization made that first declaration of a global pandemic, the first headlines that were heard or read here on CKNW on that topic. And we thought, you know what, that'd be a great Eric Chapman project to do a retrospective and a roundtable. And we want to invite you along as well. If you want to get in on this discussion, we're in the next 30 minutes. We're going to reflect back and talk through. So let's bring in Eric Chapman, of course, and Alan Regan, our lead producer here on CKNW Afternoons, as well as our producer / technical producer, our content and technical producer, Ryan Lee Hall. Guys, let's gather here. And Eric, why don't you take the wheel and sort of take us on this journey?
Sure. What a year the last 9 years have been, has it not, everybody?
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
It seemed like even when I was pulling these, I'm like, okay, March 11th, that was over a year ago, but it seems so much longer. But Jody, you just mentioned it there, and I'll start with this one. This is a day that it's like, where were you when JFK was assassinated? You know, this is one of those moments where you reflect on for a very long time. March 11th, 2020, the WHO declares coronavirus a global pandemic.
On this Wednesday night, the coronavirus officially reaches pandemic proportions. What it means and what it calls for.
This is a call to action and a call not to give up.
As more countries, including Canada, make plans to act.
We will make sure you have everything you need.
Are Canadian hospitals equipped to cope as the health minister spells out the worst case scenario?
It's safe to assume that it could be between 30% and 70% of the population.
Social distancing, what you need to know about keeping your distance, slowing the spread, and flattening the curve of infections.
Just want to make a disclaimer for anybody just tuning in or listening. These are old clips from the year. This isn't what's happening now. I just want to make that clear because we are going to be sharing some numbers, and it would freak you out some of the once we get into December of like, you know, it's kind of but again, like, wow, how things like we had so many questions. What's social distancing? Mask, like the same questions are there, just asked sort of different when it comes to certain people and their opinions on masks.
Yeah. We've all come a long way. That was what, July of last year? No, that was March 11th. Sorry, March. That was March 11th. All right, you're taking us on this journey. I remember. Okay, so March 11th for me, I was filling in at CKNW obviously in the station. And I remember at one point, I watched on the news just as I was walking in to do the fill-in. I think I was filling in for Simi on middays, and it was like, oh, Italy is just shut down, like the country. And somebody goes, the country? And I went, yeah, that's the headline. The country has shut down. And I walked into the control room and thought, what did I just say? What did I just see? What is happening? Remember, as it was coming around the planet towards us, it was really quite something.
That's why we all thought this could be interesting, because I totally forgot about what was happening in Italy. They were really the first ones to experience the impact of this with the lockdowns and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It was epic, right?
Yeah. And again, it's going to be one of those things like, where were you March 11th, 2020? And honestly, I was numb for the first couple months of this. I was like, yeah, man. But that changed very quickly, especially when in July, when we were still, I don't think we'd accepted it yet. We were still trying to navigate and find ways to do things, and we didn't realize the importance of listening to public health measures.
On Canada Day, crowds filled downtown Kelowna and the waterfront. Health officials narrowing down the exposure after more than 8 people tested positive for COVID-19 between June 25th and July 6th.
A number of other new cases have been confirmed to us.
Interior Health urging anyone who attended private gatherings at the Discovery Bay Resort from July 1st to 5th or the Boyce Gyro Beach Lodge on Canada Day to self-isolate and monitor themselves for symptoms.
these were house parties and private gatherings. However, individuals that were sick were here in Kelowna while they were sick, and they have visited public spaces.
4 months later, it's the first holidays and things. We can't do our holiday. Like, people were really starting to get frustrated, and I think fear was starting to settle in now because you couldn't go on your holiday. You couldn't do your things. It's Canada Day. We want to party, but we were really learning, oh crap, we can't party. We really have to think about this.
Sarah Campbell has waited 8 months for this moment.
As soon as I saw the car turn down the street, I started crying and kind of hyperventilating.
She and her British fiancé Jacob were supposed to get married in June and begin their life together in Canada. But the pandemic border closure meant he wasn't allowed to enter the country.
We realized, number one, that we would have to postpone our wedding. And number two, I found a lump on the side of my neck.
In July, she was diagnosed with stage 2 thyroid cancer, forced to endure surgery with Jacob stuck in the UK.
Fighting cancer, but also fighting just to have my fiancé by my side as I go through this. It's a twofold fight that no one should ever have to go through.
But many others did. Campbell joined an online campaign of thousands calling on the Canadian government to open the border to unmarried couples and those with a dying relative.
So that was back in October, right?
Yeah. This was a big thing, and you know, me being here in BC, and my mom and most of my Oma was still alive then in Alberta. You know, for me, I couldn't travel, but if I had to, I could get in a car and go there.
Yeah.
But for someone like Alan, who his family is in Ireland, and I think you did the math, Alan. You were calculating the amount of times you get to go back and see your father. Like, this must have been difficult for someone in your situation.
Yeah, difficult, and you know, it affected so many people across Canada and the world, of course. And you know, what's interesting is, you know, there was this study from a UBC sociologist that came out this week that suggested that many people, particularly older people, they felt more lonely after they had a virtual call with someone, because virtual calls just couldn't replicate that in-person thing. And that's something that, you know, I've really grappled with this past year in particular, because, you know, let's say I have a call with my parents or a call with my brothers, and I guess when I'm on that call, I get pulled right back in to their lives and right back in to what it's like being there in my hometown. And then you hang up and there's, I guess, this stark silence. And it's those moments where I just suddenly, I feel that I'm 7,000 kilometers away again. And those are the moments when I don't feel like I'm present in Vancouver. I just feel like I'm distant from my family. Yeah,
that's wow, that's very telling, Alan. To feel a distance like there's a lot of emotion attached. How are you? I'm wondering how you are now, though. Like, coming from there to here, are you more confident? Are you feeling better about not being around your family, knowing that you will probably be able to see them soon?
Yeah, the COVID end date piece, I think, kind of, not the COVID, I mean, we're going to be living with COVID for a while, obviously, but, you know, the fact that, you know, we're getting to a point where I'm now double vaccinated, you know, Ireland is, you know, moving along that progress as well. It kind of feels like, you know, hopefully in the coming months, you know, maybe early next year, a trip could be on the cards. And that brings so much comfort, because a year ago, we didn't know when, you know, these kind of things might be possible again. And I didn't know how long I was going to have to grapple with that feeling of distance. But having an end date on it and having something, even if it's tentative, to look forward to, that makes all the difference.
The afternoon's team has assembled on a roundtable. Eric Chapman taking us on a bit of a retrospective here. And Eric, I do believe we're at December 11th, 2020. Where were we in the timeline of this pandemic?
Well, this was difficult for everyone. I think this is the most fear. I think this is when we went from fear of what could happen to fear of exactly what is happening right now when it comes to the numbers.
We are seeing several new record highs in today's COVID-19 numbers for BC. Now, health officials have released some new data showing COVID-19 cases on a city-by-city basis. And while they shed more light on BC's hotspots, several municipal leaders say they still aren't getting what they need. Jordan Armstrong reports.
We're not hiding anything. We have been as transparent as any jurisdiction in North America.
That statement last month was a stretch. BC did not report weekly case numbers from local health areas until this week, and only after public pressure. BC's top doctor previously resisted this level of detail. over privacy concerns.
So, I mean, that was, I think everyone was angry and fed up. Dr. Henry was getting in a lot of trouble from the people that were disagreeing for what she says. We don't have time for the last clip, but I think just knowing the last clip was just about vaccinations, and it was from 3 months ago, and we had 1 million vaccinations in the arm. And I think that for a lot of people, that was a time when it's like, oh, vaccinations are happening. You know, we're past this procurement part, and we're actually doing it. So I think that was the penultimate, if I'm using the word right, in the opposite of how we started.
You are for sure. And the fact that this week we will surpass the target of 66 million Canadians vaccinated.
Yeah.
It is great that the country that was often over the course of these last 18 months put way low on the list of vaccination procurement, as you said, and now we are literally the gold medal standard, if I can use the Olympic term, in percentage of population vaccinated. So for those hesitant, please think about it.